Yeah, nice and warm. It's going to be in the 80s this week, right?
Great. It's crazy. We had snow 2 weeks
know.
ago.
Aleah, how about we start with you? Just coach after Friday's meet said we were awesome tonight. Now we got to do it back to back, right? Now we don't have to have an Arkansas meet, right? So just maybe talk to me about the motivation this week to be great again.
Yeah, the motivation this week comes from having such a great meet on Friday, but we also want to be able to do that anywhere. So the goal for this week is being able to do our normal, our every single day, but being able to do it in environments that we're not necessarily comfortable in, like the PMAC, for example, where everyone's just kind of pouring in support. We're going to walk into a place where they are not supportive of what we do on Friday. So keeping the same mindset of what we had going out here and really just carrying it into this week.
Yeah, I would just say like we've had a meeting after Arkansas and stuff, and just talked about our process, and we really were grinding this week, and I think just taking that over into this week and making that change into the meet is going to help us towards Alabama.
I mean, I feel like that vault routine was really the talk of last week's meet. What was it like to really see the team come up and get those scores, and kind of are y'all still focusing on vault going into this week because of how last week was, or what are y'all looking to improve on more?
Yeah, I think we're looking to improve on vault and on all areas of competition. It was a great meet, but we weren't perfect. There's still a lot of work that can be put into this week as we go against Alabama. So, taking Friday and especially vault rotation, I think that should really boost our confidence as we head into this week.
Yeah, we'll start there, but then I want to get to Jeff. Just to have the girls hit like they did in vault, and to see some of them that KJ obviously, right, and Aleah, finally stick hers, I guess. What does that do for the team? And Jeff, I kind of wanted you to talk about it. What does it do for the bars rotation as far as getting you off to a good start? But we'll start with Aleah just because you were in it, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I think, having that vault rotation go as well as it did, that's a kind of definition of what we talk about saying starting fast and finishing strong. So that start fast portion really, gets the edge on your seat going, and be able to start off on such a good foot to be able to kind of not dig ourselves into a hole and be able to start kind of on top as we go through the meet.
Specifically the girls that are kind of struggling, or KJ starting, right, with her rotation, what kind of confidence does that give for them going forward?
I think as soon as KJ planted her vault, I think we were all kind of like, okay, we're about to have a good rotation. And it's so great seeing her back out there. She's been working so hard to be able to push back into that lineup. And for this rotation to go how it did, it just goes to show that, kind of everything that we've been working for has paid off.
Yeah, going off of that, honestly, every leadoff person was a fire starter. Going off of the people in front of me, they did their job, and so it kind of just takes off the weight a little bit. It doesn't really change my process of how I really think. I really felt like the team was to themselves. It didn't feel like another team was on the floor with us, and so that really played a big part. And so just going up there and just doing my normal thing after.
Alexis, it's easy to get skewed by, you see that, Haley Bryant's won 96 titles here and stuff like that, and Aleah's been to the Olympics and everything. But to be a contributor, to get in there and compete, and to win an event, I mean, it's an achievement. Obviously, you want to focus on the team, but just tell us a little bit about what it's like to have to, you compete against these girls, and then your teammates, and then you have to go out there and compete in a meet. It's got to be a level of achievement that you feel.
Yeah, I'm honestly super honored, and I'm really grateful to be on a team with them. Every single girl on this team is super talented. We have a lot of good people on our team, and so just being able to train next to them, especially Aleah. I grew up with Aleah, and so training in club with her has always been a blast. So I'm just really grateful to be on a team with everyone that's super good at what they do.
How do you handle the pressures of performing in front of a large crowd and national television, and how do you stay focused and in the right headspace?
I normally go up. I really don't think about the crowd. I'm really to myself. I block all of it out, and I really just do a lot of positive self-talk when I'm up there. I remind myself of who I am and why I'm up there. I know Jay put me up there because he trusts me. And so just a lot of that positive talk and just reminding myself that I'm good at the event. And so I'm just going to go up there and I'm going to dominate it.
Yeah, following what Jeff said, I think it's easy from an outside looking in to kind of like, oh my gosh, there's so many people in here, and then we're on TV and all that good stuff. But honestly, whenever you're down there and in the moment, it's really just you and the team out there, and you're just kind of blocking out everything else. And what's important is what's right now and what's happening, and you want to do so good for your teammates. And so afterwards, that's when the celebration comes. But in the moment, really don't notice it too much.
What percentage of gymnastics would you say is mental versus physical?
All of it?
Yeah, all of it, 99%.
I would say probably 20% mental versus physical. Because I think that we're at the age right now where it's not so much physical reps, it's more mental reps are half the battle. And if you can get over that mental side of it, then the physical part gets easy.
And then last question, have you experienced any mental blocks this season or in the past? And if so, what did you do to work through it?
A little bit on my dismount, in the preseason, a little bit. But I just reminded myself of how many good reps I've done and try to block out the one bad dismount that I did earlier that day.
Yeah, I think following that, it's kind of easy to, if you've been doing something for so long, you can get in your head about it. We just talked about that mental performance of it, but just going back to basics, going back to the fact that we've done this skill since maybe we were like 8 to 10 years old, and that it's all mental at this point. So if you can get out of your head and just kind of, letting loose a little bit, it gets a lot easier.
Is there any truth that you guys got the highest score because Jay wasn't there all week?
No. He's shaking his head right now. No, not true at all.
Yeah.
I had to make sure he was here before I asked that. No, but you guys did go 198, right? So, like, how do you put that behind you? You talked about it just kind of a moment ago, but understanding, I guess, to not, you can't rest on the past.
Yeah, so we talk about focusing about the 5 minutes in front of our face. We can control what's happening right now. That's in the past, and so I think just moving forward and focusing on those things, like I said, taking like our process and the things that we did last week because it made us successful that weekend, and just taking that while we're going into Bama will be really important.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of the times when you have a not so great meet, you want to be able to turn the page. It's the same when it's exceptionally good. You want to be able to turn the page because that's in the past now, and we still have another great competitor this weekend.
This can be for both of you, but just what are you looking forward to heading to Alabama this week after setting the bar so high at last Friday?
I think we're really looking forward to be able to do our normal in a setting that we're not comfortable with. And, this past weekend should give us all the confidence in the world that, we are as good as we say we are, and we want to be able to continue to push the boundaries for this team.
I think something that some of the gymnastics fans appreciated was your coach saying Helen Who should have gotten a 10 the other night. And just as competitors, do you sometimes take a look at the other guys and, like Helen, for example, and say, wow, she's really good at what she does?
In the meet, typically we don't really look at the other team. We're focused on ourselves, and going off of that, we don't look off up at the scores as well. We try to stay within us, but other than that,
I think that Helen Who is a great competitor, and I think that she has exceptional beam. I personally
It's
didn't
beautiful.
get to see it
Yeah.
in the PMAC, but I just know that it's top of the top, and so being able to recognize the competitors that we go against are extremely good, and they should be recognized for that as well.
So you mentioned did y'all train together growing up? I didn't realize how close Warrensburg was to Kansas City. What was it like coming from a smaller town, having to travel back and forth? I mean, that had to be a lot of effort on your family's part, on your folks' part to get you there and back. What was that like coming up and trying to? Do you think it was more difficult coming from a small town, having to go train and come back, and then maybe it was easy for her? No, I'm kidding. I'm not saying is that, but
It's 15 minutes versus an hour.
Yeah.
so-
Yeah, no, but it was more effort, I
Yes.
guess, involved in trying to get to this level.
Yeah, well, shout out to my parents because they drove me every single day from school. My drive was about an hour every single day. I wouldn't say it's typically was coming from a smaller town that it made it harder. It was just the fact that my town was an hour away. But I'm extremely honored that I was able to do it, and that the gauge was that close to my gym, honestly, because I told my Mom when I was younger that I wanted to go to the Olympics, and I wanted to be a collegiate gymnast. And so she was like, okay, well, we're going to have to make the sacrifice and drive an hour. So I was down for it. I was super excited when I was a little kid.
Lee, I'm just curious where you think the team is kind of right now, I guess, a midway point through this thing. Where do you think the team is? I mean, you kind of seen a lot of gymnastics.
I think we're getting more comfortable competing, and that's what we're starting to see as the season goes on, is that, like, you know, you start at the beginning of the year and a little bit nervous here and there, but I think now we're finally settling in. We're continuing to learn about ourselves as a team and what we need to be able to make it to the top.
We saw a lot of newcomers last week. Aleah was out on the floor. KJ is back, obviously. What has it been like to see this new rotation keep coming in and knowing that you guys have such powerful gymnasts, that you do have different people that can go at all times? What does that do for kind of the mentality looking forward?
Yeah, I think it's great knowing that we have so much depth on our team that we can be able to switch out lineups here and there. It's great for our teams because we compete against each other, and I think that makes us better as we continue to go through this season. And so it was great to see Aleah on vault being able to do what she does. Also great for KJ because they're exceptional athletes, and KJ's a great leader. And so to have her out there and being able to do what she does, I think it's great overall for our team.
I think going off of that, I think it's good that we don't have to like rely on the same people every single time. Like it's like good, but like Aleah and like Haley, they need a break sometimes. And so just having like that depth and like the people that can take like their spot is really good and it's helpful.
Aleah, you talked about going to Alabama. We know about the intensity of the football thing and some of the other sports. What's it been like to go over there over the years? Is it an intense atmosphere?
Absolutely. I think that Alabama fans, they bring the heat, especially against LSU, but we're excited. I think they're a great team, and you know they have great gymnastics, but so do we. So we're going to continue to go out there and just be our normal. Great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just practicing for my jump rope competition.
I love the smile when you finally gave it and you're so happy.
Sometimes you just have to take a step
Good afternoon. Yeah. Yeah. Not great. All right. Well, great night Friday night, but on to the next one, and that's really the theme of what we've been talking to them about yesterday when we went back in the gym and kind of wrapped up the weekend. We've got to be able to do well on the road. We haven't shown that same level of confidence in our ability on the road for 4 events. So, you know, that's true every year. It takes a little while maybe to get to where you're comfortable regardless of the environment. So hopefully this week is the week we can sort of kind of turn that corner a little bit and improve on what we've done on the road so far.
What did y'all do right?
Say it
What
again.
did y'all do right on Friday?
What did we do right?
Yeah.
We did a lot right. I think I think the whole week was a sort of a correction that the team decided to make when they walked back in the gym coming out of Arkansas. They owned it, and they wanted to. They understood that some of the things they had been allowing themselves to get away with in practice were not going to be. At some point, we're going to show up, and that's what happened. So I think they hit the reset button, and I think they really recommitted themselves to the mindset and to the consistency of mind in the way that they prepared for that meet. And I don't think it's any coincidence that level of performance carried over. I just think it was an indicator of the entirety of the week, not just lightning struck and we stuck 4 vaults in a row right to start the meet. I think that we see that in the gym an awful lot. It's just a matter of whether the mindset stays consistent all the time. What you do in training will eventually, one way or another, carry over to the competition floor.
You just talked about turning the corner, and then Coach Garrett said last week that he felt like maybe y'all weren't prepared in the correct way to go on the road to Arkansas. So how is it looking different this week in practice and preparation to prepare?
It's not about what we do. It's not about the framework of what we do. It's about the mindset with which they go about it. If they go about it in a mindset that takes things for granted, that it's just practice, or they allow themselves to have turns that are wasteful, then those things show up later. That's what was going on prior. It's not about something we changed in terms of the framework and the day-to-day operation of how we do things. It's about an approach. It's about making sure that every single turn that you take and every time you touch the equipment, that it's intentional and that it matters for something, and that you're attempting to accomplish something or be better than you were the previous turn. And so it's more of a mindset than anything else. And yesterday was good. Yesterday's our light day, so it's hard to tell. So we'll see more today where we're at.
Now that we're 5 meets down the road, what kind of growth have you seen from especially the younger gymnasts, and just overall, how has the team handled the pressure coming into this season?
I think we've seen good growth. I think it's an ongoing process. The entire season will be about growth until we get to the end. We never should stop moving in that direction. I think the young ones have done a great job of kind of assimilating into the fabric of what we do. Been very obviously impressed with Aleah and Kaylin and Lexi, and the contributions that they have made already, and expect those to continue to grow as we go. But I think it's a good group. I think that they have all the makings of something really special, and that they just have to continue to keep their head down and keep pushing towards that in the ways that we know work for us.
Obviously, to do well, you have to have your star gymnasts, star performers, but you have to have your role players too, people who contribute, specialists, I guess you would say, in gymnastics, like Alexis. Mm-hmm. What does she and what do gymnasts like her, like Sierra, bring to the team? And also, let me ask naturally the Haley Bryant question of the week: how's she look on vault?
Well, when we talk to our team, we talk about every single role being equally important. It's not y'all the ones that make them into stars. It's not us. It's they just because somebody does 4 events doesn't necessarily make them a star. And I understand the recognition of achievement across 4 events and all those things, but the reality is that when you look at the fabric of a team and the day in and day out interactions that go on, and what goes behind being successful on every event, 6 deep or deeper, it takes everybody, and many times it's even people that don't compete at all that make a difference, and that's hard for people on the outside to believe, that don't live in that room with us, and that don't go through the things that we go through and have the conversations that we have. But it is the reality. Bryce Wilson's very important to us. She doesn't show up in a score sheet, but she's very important to the sort of spiritual makeup of our team. She's always got something. She always seems to read the tea leaves and know exactly what her teammates need to hear, prior to a competition. And there's example after example of that. Yes, Lexi Jeffrey is a tremendous specialist on one event and gives us depth on both beam and floor as well, and you can go down the list there's so many to mention. So we genuinely try internally not to emphasize anything other than that, is that every role, whatever role you find yourself in, embrace it fully, because there is no role more important than another. And there are roles that get more press clippings, but there are not roles that are more important in terms of what we do.
Like in baseball, there's guys that hit the ball all through fall ball to get out in front of 10,000 fans at Aleah Box, and they can't do it. And what's also like a freshman like Chio, what kind of makeup does it take to step in front of all those fans and win all arounds in her first year of college?
You gotta have a competitive edge to you that is unflappable, and she definitely has that. I think you saw her kind of tighten up a little bit for a week or two after she had the immediate success, but the conversations that she and I had were about letting things happen organically that happened organically in the first place, instead of all of a sudden you have this early success and then you start trying to press to repeat it or duplicate and change your approach. Her approach should be autopilot and kind of unplug the brain. She loves to really analyze everything that she does when it's not a great turn, and that can be frustrating for me as a coach when I want her to just let go and go, because I think sometimes the brain can get in the way if you're not careful, and she obviously did a great job of that this past week, and that's just part of the maturation process of. You see that all the time in other sports, as you mentioned. You see sophomore slumps and things like that come after someone had this great. They took the world by storm as a freshman, and then for whatever reason you can't figure out what happens in the following year. It generally surrounds a mental approach that's trying to duplicate something or be better, and that's a trap. That's trap thinking, and that's something that we try to address as much as possible to avoid.
It feels like we've really seen the growth of Chase Brock this season. What are you seeing from her and what she brings to this team from her role and also within leadership with her being a veteran on this team?
Chase is just a great kid. I mean, it hasn't been easy for her, all the way through. She's had her ups and downs, and she's had moments of success. I would agree that this is probably the most consistent, sustained level of success that we've seen her have, and she's confident right now, and that's really great for her, because that hasn't always been the case. Confidence has in the past had always been sort of the thing that was lacking for her. So sort of like what I just said, in the past, if Chase had success, she would then start pressing to try to duplicate it all the time, and it would kind of derail her momentum. Right now, she's really handling her success very well and staying level-headed, and I think really genuinely has some confidence in her ability to do it now, and that's growth for her, because that hasn't always been the case.
It's going to seem self-serving, but how pleased are you that your bars rotation has really elevated itself over the last couple of years to the point that it's at now?
I mean, has it? I don't even really know how to answer that. I look at everything sort of holistically from a completeness standpoint. I really try not to individualize certain events or things of that nature. I try to identify where our holes are and where we may need to improve and try to attack those things. In some years, you can do it because you have the ability there, and it's just got to get a little more refined. And other times you have to kind of smoke and mirror it, to get it to just stay competitive on a particular event and not let one event kill you, And so I just think I don't know. We've got a lot of familiar faces in this year's bar lineup and across the board. I think they're comfortable in their role, and they're very consistent, and they're a confident bunch. We really don't have an event that I look at and think there's a hole there. And now, do we need to improve in consistency in spots on various places? Absolutely. And some of our depth needs to do a better job of being prepared to go in if called upon. And I talked to them about that yesterday. But on balance, I think this is as complete a team as we've had around here.
Since you dodged my Haley Bryant question earlier, I asked you about her and KJ. Then, could KJ do? How'd she come out of doing vault? I'm kidding, of course. How'd she do coming out of vault? Can you see her doing something else this week or soon? KJ is so important to us.
just that's one of those things I was talking about, that everybody's role is important. KJ's edge and personality and there's a ferociousness about the way she does gymnastics. There's a ferocity to it, and it's contagious when we get into competition. And so I don't think there's any question about the fact that when she landed that ball Friday night, that it was in part largely responsible for the ensuing momentum that we caught. And I'd love for her to get going on floor. She's close. I don't know how close. I'd have to talk to Courtney on that. Obviously, it's a little easier to come back on an event like vault, which is very quick, than it is one that requires a little more endurance when you've been out for several weeks. But she's feeling better, and her presence is back, and that's as big a boost as anything. Do I think getting her back out there on floor would be a big shot in the arm? Yeah. I mean, we all know. I mean, how many times did she go 995 in a row over the last 2 years on floor? Yeah. I mean, her floor routine is dynamic. We also have Aleah close on floor, and so we're moving in the right direction. It's a slow process, and I know week to week sometimes you want to know what's next. Okay, we got KJ back on ball, so the natural line of thinking is what comes next. And with Haley coming back, when's the next event going to be added? But Haley did vault yesterday and looked good doing that. She doesn't have a lot of numbers in the tank, so I stopped short of saying she'll vault this weekend. But it's possible. It's possible. We'll see what the rest of the week brings. But she looked good, and she had no setbacks, and that's the main thing, is that we didn't have anything with the elbow that flared up or anything like that. So hopefully, being as judicious as we have been, that will pay dividends for us when we really need it most, late in the back third of the season.
Even last year winning the national championship, inconsistency or searching for consistency is nothing new, right? You had the meet at Florida and Missouri that didn't go your way, and so this year you've got the Arkansas meet so now this week the challenge is, hey, not hostile crowd, but maybe a little bit on the road. How do we perform?
Yeah, I mean, we talk about that too. I love going places where there's energy, even if it's energy that's not for us. You know, it's a whole lot better than being in an arena that's vapid and has no real juice. So we love going to places where the crowds are big. We know that the Alabama program is a storied program. They've got an ardent fan base that has been supportive of their program a long, long time, and we generally compete very well over there. So hopefully that's the case again. But again, our measuring stick is us. It's not about who else is on the floor with us. And I think that's true in any sport. Finding your consistency during the regular season is true. It's rare in anything that you see, run the table undefeated seasons. I know 2019 was something special that we see happen here, but that doesn't happen as often as it used to. And so there are hiccups that come along. And in a sport like ours, where the mental part is so big, I've in this room, I've equated it to golf a lot, because you can have 3 great rounds and then Sunday at the Masters fall apart, so the mental game of what we do is, I heard you guys ask Jeff and Aleah that it's a tremendous part of what we do, and that's the part you have to iron out the most. These guys know how to physically do their gymnastics. There's not a whole lot of learning gymnastics going on at this point right now. It's about getting into the right competitive mindset day in and day out, and training yourself to be there, not relying on being able to flip a switch and be able to turn it on when you go somewhere. It's about preparing mentally to compete in the same mindset that you want to be in, and that's difficult for some and easy for others. And the idea is to get them all on the same page at the right time, and sometimes we do go through those growing pains, and we did so 2 weeks ago.